The rain hammers against the cobblestone streets of Florence with relentless fury, turning the ancient piazza into a mirror of dark sky and golden lamplight. Elena Moretti stands beneath the archway of the Palazzo Vecchio, her arms wrapped tight around herself, the thin fabric of her black coat doing little against the November cold that seeps into her bones. She's late for her shift at Ristorante Bellissimo, 10 minutes late now, and Marco will be furious. But the rain shows no mercy, sheets of water cascading from the Gothic rooftops like waterfalls, and she hesitates, calculating whether ruining her only good shoes is worth avoiding Marco's wrath. She makes the decision, pulling her coat collar higher and stepping into the deluge. Her shoes are soaked within seconds, water squelching between her toes as she runs across the piazza, her bag clutched to her chest. The restaurant is only 3 blocks away, 3 blocks that feel like 3 miles in this weather. She doesn't see the car until it's too late, doesn't notice the sleek, black Mercedes gliding through the rain like a predator until it's directly beside her, spraying a wave of dirty water that drenches her from head to toe. Elena stops dead in the street, water dripping from her hair, her coat pooling in her ruined shoes. For a moment, she just stands there, stunned. Then the anger comes, hot and sharp, cutting through the cold. The Mercedes has stopped too, its brake lights glowing red in the rain. The driver's window rolls down slowly, revealing a man in his 30s with styled dark hair and an expression of mild concern that doesn't reach his calculating eyes. "My apologies," he calls out in Italian, his voice smooth and cultured. That was unfortunate. Elena stares at him, at his dry interior, at the expensive suit visible even from the street, and something inside her snaps. All the frustration of the past months, the struggle to make ends meet, the exhaustion of working double shifts, the fear that she'll never escape the trap of poverty that's held her since her parents died. It all converges in this single moment of injustice. Unfortunate? She marches to the car, rain streaming down her face. Unfortunate is when you forget your umbrella. This is carelessness. This is arrogance. She gestures at herself, at her ruined clothes. Do you have any idea what these shoes cost me? What this coat means? The driver's expression shifts, surprise flickering across his handsome features. He opens his mouth to respond, but Elena isn't finished. Of course you don't. Men like you never think about the cost of things. You drive your expensive cars through puddles without a second thought about who you're splashing, about whose day you're ruining, about whose life you're making harder. The rear window of the Mercedes rolls down, and Elena's tirade falters. The man in the back seat is younger than the driver, perhaps in his mid-30s, with the kind of face that belongs on magazine covers, sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, hair that's somehow perfect despite the humidity. He's dressed in a suit that probably costs more than Elena makes in 6 months, charcoal gray that fits his broad shoulders as if it were painted on. But it's his eyes that stop her, the way they fix on her, with an intensity that makes her forget the cold, the rain, everything except the electric current that seems to arc between them. "You're upset," he says, his voice low and measured, each word precisely placed. "That's understandable. Allow me to compensate you for the dry cleaning." He reaches into his jacket. Elena's anger flares hotter. "I don't want your money. I want you to pay attention, to see people, to understand that your actions have consequences for those of us who aren't insulated by wealth." The man in the back seat goes very still. His driver tenses, hand moving to something Elena can't see. The air in the rain-soaked street feels suddenly charged with a different kind of electricity, dangerous now. "Is that so?" the man says, and there's something new in his voice, something sharp beneath the silk. "And who exactly are you to lecture me about consequences?" Elena meets his gaze without flinching, even as a small voice in her head screams at her to back down, to apologize, to run. I'm someone who works 3 jobs to survive. Someone who can't afford to replace these shoes. Someone whose world you just made a little bit harder, without even noticing. The man studies her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he does something Elena doesn't expect. He smiles. Not a warm smile, but one of recognition, as if she's confirmed something he suspected. Marco, he says to his driver. Give her 500 euros. No, the driver says sharply. Absolutely not, Signor Vittorio. The man, Vittorio apparently, doesn't take his eyes off Elena. His expression hardens almost imperceptibly. That wasn't a request. The driver's jaw tightens, but he reaches into his jacket and withdraws a wallet, counting out bills with obvious reluctance. He holds them out the window toward Elena, his face a mask of barely concealed hostility. Elena stares at the money, at the driver's cold eyes, at Vittorio's inscrutable expression. 500 euros, more than she makes in 2 weeks of back-breaking work. Enough to replace her shoes, her coat, and still have something left over. All she has to do is take it. She steps back. Keep your money. Buy yourself a lesson in empathy instead. Then she turns and walks away, her soaked shoes squelching with each step, rain plastering her hair to her skull. She doesn't look back, even though she can feel Vittorio's eyes burning into her spine. Behind her, she hears the driver say something sharp and angry, hears the quiet murmur of Vittorio's response. Then the Mercedes pulls away, its taillights disappearing into the rain. Elena's hands are shaking, though whether from cold or adrenaline she can't tell. What did she just do? Who was that man? And why did turning down his money feel both like the bravest and stupidest thing she's ever done? She arrives at Ristorante Bellissimo 15 minutes late, looking like she's been swimming in the Arno. Marco takes one look at her, and his face turns the color of overripe tomatoes. Where have you been? You know we have a private party tonight. You know how important this is. Elena strips off her ruined coat, wringing water from her hair. I'm sorry, Marco. The rain, I got caught in it. Marco's eyes narrow. You're always sorry, Elena. Sorry you're late. Sorry you broke the wine glasses last week. Sorry you can't work the extra shifts I need. His voice drops to a hiss. Maybe I should find someone who's less sorry and more reliable. The words hit Elena like a slap, but she forces herself to nod, to swallow her pride, to remember that she needs this job desperately. She has rent due in 3 days, her landlord already threatening eviction after last month's late payment. She has her grandmother's medical bills piling up at the hospital in Siena, treatments that the state insurance doesn't fully cover. She has student loans from her unfinished university degree, abandoned when her parents died, and left her with nothing but debt and determination to survive. I understand, Marco. It won't happen again. She hurries to the staff room, changes into her uniform, a simple black dress with a white apron that's meant to look elegant, but just makes her feel like part of the furniture. Her shoes squelch with every step, and she knows she'll spend the entire shift with wet feet. But there's nothing to be done about it now. The private party is already assembling in the restaurant's exclusive dining room, the one with the frescoed ceiling and the view of the Duomo. Elena can hear laughter and conversation in Italian as she approaches, carrying a tray of champagne flutes. She pushes through the door with her practiced server's smile, the one that says she's attentive but invisible, present but not intrusive. And then she sees him. Vittorio sits at the head of the table, his gray suit exchanged for black now, his dark hair pushed back from his forehead. He's surrounded by men in expensive suits, their conversation animated, their body language speaking of power and familiarity. But the moment Elena enters, his eyes find her, lock onto her with that same intensity from the rain-soaked street. His expression doesn't change. He doesn't acknowledge their earlier encounter. But something in his gaze makes Elena's hands tremble slightly as she moves around the table, offering champagne. She avoids him, serving everyone else first, hoping someone will take the last glass so she won't have to approach him. But no one does. And finally, she has no choice. She stands beside him, the champagne flute extended, her eyes fixed on a point somewhere past his shoulder. Vittorio takes the glass, his fingers brushing hers deliberately. "Thank you," he says, his voice pitched for her ears alone. That's a different reaction than the one on the street. Elena's jaw tightens. "I'm working now. Signor professionalism is required." A ghost of a smile touches his lips. And earlier? Was that unprofessionalism? That was honesty, she replies quietly, finally meeting his eyes. Something you probably encounter rarely. His smile deepens fractionally. But before he can respond, the man to his right, silver-haired and distinguished, speaks up in rapid Italian. "Vittorio, are you going to introduce us to this beautiful young woman, or keep her all to yourself?" Vittorio leans back in his chair, his eyes never leaving Elena's face. "Gentlemen, this is Elena, one of Bellissimo's finest servers." "Elena, these are business associates." The silver-haired man, whom she now recognizes as Giovanni Ferretti, a name that appears regularly in the business section of the newspapers, raises his glass to her. Charming. Absolutely charming. "Tell me, my dear, have you worked here long?" "Long enough," Elena replies, uncomfortable with the attention. "Is there anything else I can bring you, signori?" Vittorio's voice cuts smoothly through the conversation. "Actually, yes. We'll need menus shortly, and I'd prefer if you personally handled our table tonight." Elena's stomach sinks. Marco will be thrilled with the exclusive assignment to such an important party, but the thought of spending the evening under Vittorio's watchful gaze makes her skin prickle with unease. "Of course, signor. Whatever you require." The evening unfolds with excruciating slowness. Elena moves in and out of the private dining room, bringing courses, pouring wine, clearing plates. The conversation at the table is conducted in Italian, rapid and colloquial, full of business terms and casual references to deals and acquisitions. She tries not to listen, tries to maintain her invisible server persona, but it's impossible not to notice certain things. The way the other men defer to Vittorio, seeking his opinion, waiting for his approval. The way he speaks with quiet authority, never raising his voice, but somehow dominating every discussion. The way his eyes follow her movements whenever she's in the room, tracking her with the focus of a predator. During the main course, while Elena is refilling water glasses, Giovanni Ferretti leans toward Vittorio and says something in a low voice. Elena catches only fragments. Something about a shipment, about customs officials being difficult, about needing to remind certain people of their obligations. Vittorio's response is too quiet for her to hear, but whatever he says makes Ferretti nod with satisfaction. It's during dessert that everything shifts. Elena is clearing plates when her phone vibrates in her apron pocket. She ignores it, as she's supposed to, but it vibrates again, insistent. And again. Marco will fire her if he catches her checking her phone during service, but something about the persistence makes her anxious. She glances at the screen discreetly while in the kitchen. 7 missed calls from the hospital in Siena. Her grandmother. Elena's hands go numb, the plates she's holding suddenly heavy as lead. She sets them down carefully, her mind racing. 7 calls. That many calls means something is wrong. Seriously wrong. She needs to call back, needs to find out what's happening. But she's in the middle of service with the most important table of the night. Marco will never forgive her if she abandons her post. She stands frozen in the kitchen, paralyzed by impossible choices. Then her phone rings again, and she answers without thinking, her voice emerging as a whisper. "Pronto?" The nurse's voice is gentle but urgent. "Miss Moretti, your grandmother has taken a turn. The doctors are with her now. But you should come as soon as possible if you want to say goodbye." The world tilts. Elena grabs the counter for support, her vision tunneling. "Say goodbye." The words echo in her skull, hollow and final. Her grandmother, who raised her after her parents died, who sacrificed everything to give Elena opportunities, who still calls her Piccola even though Elena is 26 years old. Dying. "I'll be there," Elena says, her voice breaking. "I'm leaving now." She hangs up and stands in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face, her body shaking with the effort of holding in sobs. She needs to tell Marco she's leaving, needs to grab her coat and bag, needs to figure out how to get to Siena at this time of night. The last train left an hour ago. A taxi would cost a fortune she doesn't have. But none of that matters. Her grandmother is dying, and Elena needs to be there. She wipes her face, straightens her apron, and pushes through the kitchen doors. She'll tell the table she's unwell, apologize to Marco later, deal with being fired if necessary. But as she enters the private dining room, her red-rimmed eyes and tear-stained face apparently visible despite her best efforts, the conversation stops. All the men turn to look at her, and Vittorio rises from his chair. "What's wrong?" he asks, his voice sharp with something that might be concern. Elena shakes her head, trying to compose herself. "Nothing, signor. I apologize for the disruption. Another server will attend to you for the remainder of the evening." She turns to leave, but his voice stops her. "Elena." The use of her name, said with such command, roots her to the spot. She faces him, no longer caring about professionalism or invisibility or keeping her job. "My grandmother is dying. I need to go to her. Now." Vittorio doesn't hesitate. "Marco," he calls out, loud enough for the floor manager to hear from the main dining room. Marco appears instantly, his expression anxious. "Yes, Signor Vittorio. This young woman needs to leave immediately. Family emergency. You'll provide her with her coat and ensure she faces no repercussions for leaving mid-shift. Is that understood?" Marco's eyes dart between Elena and Vittorio, confusion and resentment warring on his face. "But signor, the service. Is that understood?" Vittorio repeats, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Marco swallows visibly. "Yes, signor." "Of course." Vittorio turns back to Elena. "Where do you need to go?" "Siena." "The hospital." "But I'll manage. I don't need your help." Even now, drenched in tears and desperate, she can't bring herself to accept his interference. Something flickers in Vittorio's dark eyes, respect perhaps, or recognition of her stubborn pride. "My car will take you. It's faster than any train or taxi, and it's already here." "No," Elena says automatically. "I can't accept that. I can't accept anything from you." Vittorio moves closer, close enough that she can smell his cologne, something expensive and woody that makes her dizzy. This isn't about accepting, Elena. This isn't about pride or independence or whatever else is running through that stubborn mind of yours. This is about getting to your grandmother before it's too late. Do you really want to waste time arguing with me? The logic is irrefutable, cruel in its accuracy. Every minute she spends refusing his help is a minute she won't have with her grandmother. Elena nods, defeated, and Vittorio gestures to his driver, who rises immediately from his seat. "Marco will take you. He'll drive as fast as safely possible." And Elena, his eyes hold hers. "I'm sorry about your grandmother. Within minutes, Elena is in the back of the Mercedes, the same car that drenched her earlier, now her unlikely salvation. The driver, Marco, whom she now understands, is not just a driver, but something more. Something dangerous in the way he carries himself. Navigates the rain-slicked streets with practiced efficiency. They leave Florence behind, heading south toward Siena. The speedometer climbing higher than Elena would have thought safe in this weather, but she doesn't ask him to slow down. She sits rigid in the back seat, her phone clutched in her hand, watching the dark countryside blur past, praying with every kilometer that they'll make it in time. The drive takes 40 minutes, though it feels like hours. Marco doesn't speak except to occasionally relay information he receives through an earpiece, updates she doesn't understand about routes and timing. When they finally pull up to the hospital's emergency entrance, Elena has the door open before the car fully stops. "Wait," Marco calls after her. She pauses, one foot already on the pavement. "Signor Vittorio said to tell you he'll take care of everything here. The bills, the treatments, anything your grandmother needs." Elena stares at him, this dangerous man with his emotionless face, delivering the most emotionally loaded message of her life. Why? Why would he do that? Marco's expression doesn't change. Because he can. Because he wants to. Because you impressed him, which doesn't happen often. His eyes narrow slightly. Don't waste his generosity. Miss Moretti. Men like Signor Vittorio don't offer twice. Then he's pulling away, the Mercedes disappearing into the rainy night, leaving Elena standing alone under the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital entrance. She pushes through the doors, asks frantically at the desk for her grandmother's room, runs through sterile corridors until she finds it. Her grandmother looks impossibly small in the hospital bed, her skin papery and gray, her breathing labored despite the oxygen mask. But her eyes open when Elena enters, and recognition sparks in their faded depths. "Piccola," she whispers, her voice barely audible beneath the hiss of oxygen. "You came." Elena collapses into the chair beside the bed, taking her grandmother's frail hand in both of hers. "Of course I came, Nonna. Always." They sit together in the quiet room, the only sounds the beeping of monitors and the rain against the window. Her grandmother drifts in and out of consciousness, sometimes lucid and present, sometimes lost in memories from decades past. During a moment of clarity, she squeezes Elena's hand with surprising strength. "The man who brought you here tonight," her grandmother says. "He's important. Dangerous, perhaps." Elena's breath catches. How could her grandmother know about Vittorio? She hasn't said anything about him. Her grandmother's lips curve in a weak smile. "I see it in your eyes, Piccola. The fear and the fascination. The same look your mother had when she met your father." Elena's throat tightens. Papa wasn't dangerous. He was an accountant. Her grandmother's eyes drift closed. Everyone is dangerous when they have something to protect, when they have something to lose. Remember that, Elena. When the man with dangerous eyes offers you the world, remember that accepting it means becoming part of his world. The words hang in the air, prophetic and unsettling. But before Elena can ask what she means, her grandmother's breathing changes, becomes more labored, more desperate. Nurses rush in, then doctors, and Elena is pushed gently but firmly from the room. She stands in the corridor, her back against the cold wall, sliding down until she's sitting on the floor with her knees pulled to her chest. Her grandmother dies 20 minutes later, peacefully, the doctors assure her, without pain. Surrounded by medical professionals who did everything possible, Elena signs papers in a daze, makes decisions about funeral arrangements without fully comprehending the words coming from her mouth. Dawn is breaking when she finally steps outside, the rain having stopped, leaving the world washed clean and exhausted. The Mercedes is waiting at the curb. She should be surprised, but somehow she's not. Marco emerges from the driver's seat, his expression neutral but not unkind. "I'm sorry for your loss. Miss Moretti. Signor Vittorio asked me to remain available for whatever you need." Elena walks toward the car like a sleepwalker, too numb to argue or protest. She slides into the back seat, the same seat where she sat hours ago with her grandmother still alive, with hope still possible. Now there's only emptiness. "Take me home," she says quietly. Marco nods and pulls away from the hospital. They drive in silence through the Tuscan countryside, the morning sun painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Beautiful and indifferent to human suffering. When they arrive at Elena's apartment building in one of Florence's less fashionable neighborhoods, Marco comes around to open her door. Before she can exit, he hands her a small card. "Signor Vittorio wanted you to have this, his private number. If you need anything, call." Elena takes the card, studying the embossed numbers. Why is he doing this? What does he want from me? Marco's expression remains neutral. Perhaps he'll tell you himself, or perhaps you should ask him directly. Then he's back in the driver's seat, and the Mercedes is gliding away, leaving Elena standing on the cracked sidewalk in front of her building, a dead woman's granddaughter holding a powerful man's phone number. She climbs the 3 flights to her tiny apartment, the one she shares with too many memories and too much silence. Inside, everything is exactly as she left it last night. Her breakfast dishes still in the sink, her bed unmade, a textbook from her abandoned studies open on the table. But everything has changed. Her grandmother is gone, the only family she had left, the only person who loved her unconditionally, who believed in her potential even when Elena had stopped believing in herself. And in her pocket is a card with a phone number that represents a choice, a crossroads. She could throw it away, go back to her 3 jobs and her struggling existence, maintain her independence and her pride. Or she could call Vittorio, this dangerous man with his dark eyes and his incomprehensible interest in a waitress who insulted him in the rain. Elena sets the card on her kitchen counter and stares at it for a long moment. Then she makes coffee, drinks it black and scalding, and begins the grim task of planning a funeral she can't afford. By afternoon, she's made dozens of calls to the funeral home, the cemetery, the church. Each conversation ends the same way, with a price quote that makes her stomach clench and her remaining savings seem laughably inadequate. She's calculating how much she can borrow, who might lend her money, when her phone rings. The number is unfamiliar. She answers warily. "Hello?" "Miss Moretti," a professional female voice says. "This is Giulia Rossi, from Rossi and Sons Funeral Services. I'm calling to confirm the arrangements for your grandmother, Signora Moretti." Elena's confusion must be evident in her silence, because the woman continues. "The full service has already been arranged and paid for by Signor Vittorio Dante. I just need to confirm some personal details for the memorial." Elena's hand tightens on the phone, her mind reeling. Vittorio Dante. So that's his full name. And he's already paid for the funeral, the entire thing, without asking her permission, without consulting her wishes. The presumption of it, the arrogance, should infuriate her. Instead, she feels tears burning behind her eyes, relief and resentment tangled so tightly she can't separate them. "I didn't ask him to do that," Elena says finally, her voice unsteady. "I can't accept this. It's too much." There's a delicate pause on the other end. "With respect, Miss Moretti, the arrangements have already been made. Signor Dante was very specific about his wishes. He wants your grandmother to have a service befitting her dignity. He's also arranged for a private car to transport you to and from the funeral, and for catering at the reception afterward." Elena closes her eyes, overwhelmed. "Can you transfer me to him?" "I need to speak with him directly." "I'm afraid Signor Dante is currently unavailable," the woman says smoothly. He's traveling on business, but he left instructions that all your needs should be met. If there's anything specific you'd like changed about the arrangements, I'm authorized to accommodate your requests. Elena wants to argue, wants to insist on speaking with Vittorio himself, wants to throw his generosity back in his face and maintain what little independence she has left. But her grandmother is dead, and refusing his help won't bring her back. It will only make everything harder. Fine, Elena says, defeated. Thank you for calling. She hangs up and stares at the card on her counter, at Vittorio's private number, at the choice that's already been made for her, whether she likes it or not. She picks up her phone and dials before she can change her mind. The phone rings twice before his voice comes through, low and immediate. Elena. Not a question, a statement, as if he's been waiting for her call. You paid for my grandmother's funeral. Yes. Why? There's a pause, filled with the sound of wind or movement. He's outside somewhere. Because you needed help, and I could provide it. That's not an answer. She hears what might be a quiet laugh. No, I suppose it's not. The real answer is complicated, Elena. The real answer is that I saw something in you yesterday. Something rare. Courage, integrity, pride, even when you had nothing to be proud of. And I wanted to see what would happen if someone took care of you for once, instead of the other way around. The words settle over her like a physical weight, unexpected in their sincerity. She doesn't know how to respond. I can't repay you, she says finally. I don't have that kind of money. I don't want repayment. His voice is firm, allowing no argument. Consider it a gift. No strings attached. Elena laughs, the sound bitter. Men like you don't give gifts without strings. You want something from me. I just don't know what yet. Another pause, longer this time. Then Vittorio says quietly, What I want, Elena, is for you to stop struggling for one moment. Stop fighting the world. Stop carrying everything alone. Let someone help you, just this once. And if that someone has to be me, then so be it. The vulnerability in his words catches her off guard. This is not the cold, commanding man from the restaurant, not the powerful figure who makes other men nervous. This is someone different, someone with depths she hadn't anticipated. I don't understand you, she admits. I don't understand what you want or why you're doing this. Good, he replies, and she can hear the smile in his voice. That makes two of us. Come to dinner with me tomorrow night. Let me explain myself properly. I can't. I have to work. I need the money from my shifts. You don't, he says gently. I spoke with Marco, your manager at Bellissimo. You've been given a week of paid leave. Bereavement time. Elena's temper flares. You can't just rearrange my life without asking. You can't make decisions for me like I'm a child who can't handle her own affairs. I can, when those decisions make your life easier, he counters. And I will continue to do so until you tell me to stop. So tell me to stop, Elena. Tell me you don't want my help, that you'd prefer to struggle through your grandmother's funeral arrangements while working 3 jobs and drowning in debt. Tell me you don't want dinner with me tomorrow, that you're not curious about who I am and why a chance encounter in the rain has led to this. Tell me, and I'll disappear from your life. You'll never hear from me again. The challenge hangs between them, electric and charged. Elena knows she should tell him exactly that, should cut this connection before it becomes something she can't control, but the words won't come. Instead, she asks, where and when? His satisfaction is audible. I'll send a car for you at 7. Wear something comfortable. This isn't business, Elena. This is personal. He hangs up before she can respond, leaving her holding a silent phone and wondering what she's just agreed to. The next 24 hours pass in a blur of funeral arrangements and sleepless nights. Elena meets with the priest, selects readings and hymns, writes an obituary that tries to capture her grandmother's essence in a few inadequate paragraphs. She notifies the handful of remaining relatives, distant cousins in other cities, who express polite condolences, but won't attend. Her grandmother had outlived most of her generation, and Elena realizes with painful clarity that at the funeral, she'll be mostly alone. By the time 7 o'clock approaches the following evening, Elena is exhausted, emotionally wrung out, and questioning her decision to meet Vittorio. But she showers, dries her hair, and stands before her meager wardrobe, trying to decide what comfortable means to a man who wears suits that cost thousands of euros. She settles on dark jeans, a soft cream sweater, and ankle boots, her only pair that aren't ruined by rain. Minimal makeup, hair loose around her shoulders. If this is personal, as he claimed, then he can see the real her, not some polished version designed to impress. The car arrives precisely at 7, not the Mercedes, but a different vehicle, equally expensive, but less ostentatious. The driver is someone new, a woman in her 40s, with kind eyes, who introduces herself as Lucia. "Miss Moretti," she says warmly, "Signor Dante asked me to drive you tonight. He thought you might be more comfortable with a female driver given the circumstances." The consideration surprises Elena. She slides into the back seat, and Lucia pulls smoothly into Florence's evening traffic. They drive out of the city, heading into the hills as the sun sets in brilliant oranges and purples. After 20 minutes, they turn onto a private road lined with cypress trees, climbing higher until they reach a villa that takes Elena's breath away. It's ancient, built from honey-colored stone, with terracotta roof tiles and shuttered windows glowing with warm light from within. Gardens surround it, meticulously maintained even in November, with gravel paths and strategically placed lighting that makes the entire property look like something from a dream. Lucia opens Elena's door with a smile. "He's waiting for you on the terrace. Just follow the path around to the left." Elena does as instructed, her boots crunching on gravel, her heart beating faster with each step. She rounds the corner of the villa and stops. The terrace overlooks the valley below, Florence spread out in the distance like a carpet of lights. A table has been set for 2, candles flickering in glass hurricanes, white linens glowing in the twilight. And standing at the balustrade, his back to her, is Vittorio. He's dressed casually, at least, casually for him. Dark pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. No jacket, no tie, just clean lines and understated elegance. He turns as her footsteps announce her arrival, and for a moment, they simply look at each other across the candlelit terrace. "Elena," he says, moving toward her, "thank you for coming." "I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure I would either," she admits. His smile is genuine, reaching his eyes in a way she hasn't seen before. Honesty. "I appreciate that." "Come, sit. Dinner will be ready shortly, but I thought we could talk first." He pulls out her chair, waits until she's seated, before taking his own across the table. A staff member appears with wine, pours for them both, then disappears as silently as he came. Elena takes a sip, the wine rich and complex, probably worth more than her monthly rent. "This is beautiful," she says, gesturing at the view, the terrace, everything. "Do you live here?" "Sometimes," Vittorio replies. "I have several properties. This one is my favorite. Quieter than the city, more peaceful." "Why did you bring me here?" Elena asks directly. "Why not a restaurant or some public place?" "Because I wanted privacy," he says. "Because what I'm about to tell you, what I want to ask you, requires honesty. And honesty is easier without an audience." Elena sets down her wine glass. Then be honest, Vittorio. Tell me who you really are. What you really do. Why a man like you is interested in someone like me. He leans back in his chair, studying her in the candlelight. A man like me, he repeats. What do you think I am, Elena? She meets his gaze steadily. Rich, obviously. Powerful. The way people at the restaurant treated you. The way even the manager deferred to you. That wasn't just about money. That was fear mixed with respect. So I think you're someone who operates outside the usual rules. Someone who makes those rules for others. Vittorio's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his eyes. Approval, perhaps. You're perceptive. Not everyone would have seen that. Most people see the suits, the cars, the money, and assume I'm just another wealthy businessman. So what are you really? His pause is deliberate, weighted with significance. I'm someone who facilitates transactions that others find difficult or impossible. I connect people who need things with people who can provide those things. Sometimes those transactions are entirely legal. Sometimes they exist in gray areas. And sometimes he meets her eyes. They're on the other side of the law entirely. Elena's stomach tightens, but she doesn't look away. You're a criminal. The word sounds harsh, judgmental. Vittorio doesn't flinch. Some would say that. Others would say, I'm a businessman who operates in markets the government would prefer didn't exist. The distinction is largely philosophical. Why are you telling me this? Elena asks. Why risk trusting me with information that could harm you? Because I want you to understand what you're getting into if you continue to see me. His voice is serious now, almost grave. I'm not a good man, Elena. I've done things I'm not proud of. I've hurt people, ruined lives, made choices that kept me awake at night. But I'm also not the monster the law would paint me as. I operate by a code. I protect those under my care, and I never harm the innocent. Elena processes this, trying to reconcile the dangerous criminal with the man who paid for her grandmother's funeral, who sent his driver to take her to the hospital, who's looking at her now with such intensity it makes her breath catch. And what do you want from me? The question hangs between them, loaded with implications. Vittorio leans forward, his eyes never leaving hers. At first, I thought I knew. I thought you were a distraction, a beautiful woman who caught my attention. Someone I could help, enjoy for a time, then move on from. But, Elena prompts when he pauses, but then you turned down my money in the rain. Then I saw how you looked at your grandmother, the love and desperation in your eyes. Then you stood in that hospital corridor, with your world falling apart, and still managed to maintain your dignity. His voice drops lower, and I realized what I want from you is something I haven't wanted in a very long time. What's that? Elena whispers, though she's not sure she's ready for the answer. Vittorio reaches across the table, his hand extended palm up, an invitation rather than a demand. Something real, something that isn't about power or transactions, or the games I play every day. Someone who sees me, not what I can provide or what I can do for them, but who I actually am beneath all of it. Elena stares at his outstretched hand, at the choice it represents. Every rational part of her brain screams warnings. This man is dangerous. He's admitted to being a criminal. Getting involved with him will only complicate her already difficult life, might even put her in danger. But her hand moves of its own accord, sliding into his, feeling the warmth and strength of his fingers as they close around hers. I don't know if I can give you that, she says honestly. I don't know if I can separate the man from the monster, as you put it. Vittorio's thumb strokes across her knuckles, the gesture unexpectedly tender. Then let me prove it to you. Give me time. Let me show you that I'm more than the worst things I've done. Elena wants to argue, wants to pull her hand away, and leave before this goes any further. But something in his eyes, vulnerability mixed with hope, keeps her rooted to her chair. The staff member returns with the first course, and they eat in comfortable silence for a while, the food exquisite, but barely registering for Elena. Her mind is too full of questions, of implications, of the weight of the decision she's somehow already making without consciously choosing. As they move through the meal, Vittorio tells her about himself in ways that feel genuine rather than calculated. He speaks of growing up in Naples, the son of a man who built an empire from nothing through cunning and ruthlessness. He describes watching his father navigate the dangerous waters between legitimate business and criminal enterprise, learning early that power comes not from following rules, but from understanding which rules can be broken and which cannot. My father died when I was 22, Vittorio says, his voice distant with memory. An arranged accident made to look like a heart attack. His rivals thought I would be weak, that I couldn't hold what he'd built. They were wrong. Elena can hear the steel beneath his words, the absolute certainty. What did you do? I consolidated power quickly and brutally. I made examples of those who challenged me. I showed everyone that I was not my father. I was worse when necessary. He meets her eyes. I'm not proud of those early years, Elena. I did things that still haunt me. But I survived, and I built something stronger than what my father left me. And now? What do you do now? His expression softened slightly. Now I'm more strategic, less violent. I've learned that reputation often accomplishes more than action. People fear what they believe I'm capable of, which means I rarely have to prove it anymore. He pauses. I'm trying to transition more of my operations into legitimate businesses. It's a slow process, complicated by relationships and obligations built over decades. But it's what I want. A legacy that's more than blood and fear. Why? Elena asks. Why change if you're successful as you are? Because I'm tired, he says simply. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of wondering which associate will betray me, which rival will make a move. Tired of living in a world where trust is a weakness and loyalty is bought rather than earned. His eyes hold hers. And because I want the possibility of something different, a life that includes more than business and survival. Elena absorbs this, seeing him with new clarity. He's not just a criminal or a monster. He's a man trapped by choices made long ago, trying to find a way out while maintaining the power that keeps him safe. It's tragic in its way, and unexpectedly human. They move to the comfortable seating area at the far end of the terrace after dinner, where outdoor heaters ward off the November chill. Vittorio pours grappa for them both, the clear liquid catching the candlelight. Elena sips carefully, the alcohol burning pleasantly down her throat. Tell me about you, Vittorio says. I know the facts from your background check, but I don't know who you are beneath those facts. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with why you abandoned your university degree. Elena hesitates, old pain surfacing. Because my parents died in a car accident during my 3rd year. Drunk driver, wrong place, wrong time. She stares into her glass. I had to drop out to work, to pay for their funeral, to support myself. My grandmother helped as much as she could, but she was already living on a small pension. It was survive or drown, and I chose survival. And you never went back to finish? She shakes her head. By the time I'd saved enough money, too much time had passed. I'd have to start over in many classes. And honestly, I'd lost faith that a degree would change anything. I was already working 3 jobs, barely making rent. What difference would a piece of paper make? Vittorio is quiet for a moment, processing. What did you study? International business and marketing. I wanted to work for a company that did business across Europe, Maybe travel. Use my languages? She laughs bitterly. Instead, I'm serving pasta to tourists and cleaning hotel rooms at 6 in the morning. Your English is flawless, he observes. Where did you learn? My mother was half English. She insisted we speak both languages at home. I also speak some French and German, enough to get by. His eyes sharpen with interest. You're multilingual, educated, intelligent, and you've been wasting away serving food and cleaning rooms. That's unacceptable, Elena bristles. My work isn't shameful. There's no shame in honest labor. No, he agrees quickly. There's not. But there's waste in someone with your potential being limited by circumstances beyond your control. She wants to argue, but the truth of his words stings. She has felt wasted, has felt her potential rotting unused while she scrubs toilets and carries plates. But admitting that feels like admitting defeat. What are you suggesting? Elena asks warily. Come work for me. His proposition is direct, unadorned. I need someone who can manage international communications, translate documents, coordinate with associates across Europe. Someone intelligent, discreet, and capable of learning quickly. The salary would be 10 times what you're making now, enough to pay off your debts, save for the future, finish your degree if you want. Elena stares at him, shocked. You're offering me a job? Just like that? Just like that, he confirms. Though I should be honest about what working for me means. Some of what you'd be translating, some of the communications you'd be managing, would be related to the less legitimate aspects of my business. You'd be complicit, at least in the eyes of the law. If I ever go down, there's a chance you could too. The warning is clear and appreciated, but it doesn't change the fundamental problem. I can't work for you, Vittorio. Why not? Because I don't know what this is. She gestures between them. This dinner, this attraction, whatever's happening between us. Mixing that with work is a terrible idea. You're right, he says, surprising her. It is a terrible idea, which is why I'm offering you the choice. Work for me and nothing more. A professional relationship, nothing personal. Or, his voice drops lower, pursue this personal connection and maintain your independence. But don't try to do both, because you're right. That would be a disaster. Elena's mind races. He's offering her financial security, a chance to use her skills, a way out of the trap of poverty that's held her for years. All she has to do is accept a professional relationship and nothing more. But the heat in his gaze, the magnetic pull she feels sitting near him, the way her skin tingles when he looks at her, all of it screams that keeping things professional would be impossible. I need time to think, she says finally. This is too much, too fast. I buried my grandmother 2 days ago. I can't make life-changing decisions while I'm still grieving. Vittorio nods, understanding in his expression. Of course. Take all the time you need. The offer remains open. No pressure, no deadline. He stands, extending his hand to help her up. Come, it's getting late. I'll have Lucia drive you home. They walk together toward the front of the villa where the car waits, Vittorio's hand resting lightly at the small of Elena's back. The touch is proprietary, but not aggressive, a claim that's not quite being made yet. At the car, he turns to face her fully. Elena, regardless of what you decide about work, about us, I want you to know something. His voice is serious, weighted with sincerity. You're extraordinary, not because of your languages or your intelligence, though those are impressive, but because of your courage, your integrity, the way you fight for what matters to you. Don't let the world convince you otherwise. The words hit Elena with unexpected force, tears pricking her eyes. When was the last time someone saw her, really saw her, and found her worthy? Thank you, she whispers. He leans forward, and for a breathless moment, Elena thinks he's going to kiss her. Instead, he presses his lips to her forehead, the gesture somehow more intimate than a kiss would have been. "Good night, Elena. Call me when you've decided." Then he's stepping back, and Lucia is opening the car door, and Elena is sliding into the back seat in a daze. As they pull away from the villa, she watches Vittorio through the rear window, standing alone in the golden light spilling from his home, watching her leave. The drive back to Florence passes quickly, Lucia maintaining a comfortable silence that Elena appreciates. By the time they reach her neighborhood, Elena has made a decision, or perhaps accepted an inevitability she's been fighting since that first moment in the rain. "Wait," Elena says as Lucia pulls up to her building. "Can you take me back?" Lucia meets her eyes in the rearview mirror, a knowing smile playing at her lips. "Of course, Miss Moretti. Signor Dante will be pleased." The return journey feels both endless and instantaneous. Elena's heart pounds against her ribs, her hands trembling with nerves and anticipation. What is she doing? She barely knows this man. He's dangerous, criminal, exists in a world so far from hers they might as well be from different planets. But none of that matters compared to the certainty burning in her chest. She's tired of being alone, tired of struggling, tired of denying herself anything that feels good because she's afraid of the consequences. For once in her life, she wants to make the impulsive choice, the reckless one, the choice that has nothing to do with survival and everything to do with desire. When they arrive back at the villa, Vittorio is still on the terrace, now seated with a glass of something amber in his hand, staring out at the lights of Florence below. He stands as Elena approaches, confusion and hope warring in his expression. "Elena." "What? I've decided?" she interrupts, her voice stronger than she feels about the job. "No. About this." She closes the distance between them, her eyes locked on his. "About us. Whatever this is, whatever it becomes, I want it. I want to see where this goes, even though it terrifies me. Even though you terrify me." Vittorio goes very still, his dark eyes searching her face. "You understand what you're saying? What you're choosing?" "I understand that I've spent my entire adult life playing it safe, making the responsible choice, doing what I should rather than what I want." Elena's voice trembles, but doesn't break. "And I understand that despite knowing you for days, despite everything rational telling me to run, I can't stop thinking about you, about the way you look at me like I matter, like I'm someone worth knowing rather than just someone passing through your world." Vittorio's hand comes up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "You terrify me too," he says quietly. "Because I don't know how to do this, how to be with someone without trying to control them, possess them, keep them locked away where they're safe." Elena covers his hand with hers. "Then we'll figure it out together." Both of us terrified, both of us probably making a mistake. His smile is slow, transforming his face from handsome to devastating. That's the best offer I've had in years. When he kisses her, it's nothing like the gentle press of lips to her forehead earlier. This kiss is claiming, possessive, demanding, and giving in equal measure. Elena's hands fist in his shirt, pulling him closer as his arms wrap around her, one hand sliding into her hair, the other pressing against the small of her back. She's kissed men before, but never like this. Never with this intensity that makes her forget where she ends and he begins. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, Vittorio rests his forehead against hers. "Stay tonight," he says. Not quite a command, but close. "Let me show you what this could be." Elena knows she should refuse, should take things slowly, maintain some boundaries. but she's already made her choice, already stepped off the cliff. Falling is inevitable now. Yes, she breathes. The villa's interior is as stunning as its exterior. All exposed beams and modern comfort seamlessly blended with ancient architecture. Vittorio leads her up a wide staircase to the second floor, down a hallway lit by soft sconces, to a suite that takes up the entire east wing. Through the windows, Florence glitters in the distance like scattered diamonds. "Elena," Vittorio says, turning to face her as the door closes behind them. "Before this goes any further, I need you to understand something. This isn't casual for me. I don't do casual. If we cross this line, you're mine. Not in a way that restricts your freedom or diminishes who you are, but in a way that matters. I'll expect loyalty, honesty, trust. And in return, I'll give you the same, along with everything I have to offer." The declaration is old-fashioned, almost archaic in its possessiveness. It should probably offend her modern sensibilities. Instead, it sends a thrill through her that settles low in her belly. "And what if I want to belong to myself?" Elena challenges, curious about his response. His smile is dangerous now, predatory. "Then you belong to yourself and to me. The two aren't mutually exclusive. I don't want to own you, Elena. I want to be the person you choose above all others, as you'll be that person for me." He moves closer, his voice dropping. "I want to be the one you call when things fall apart. The one you celebrate victories with. The one who knows all your secrets and keeps them safe." Elena's breath catches. That's a lot to promise after knowing someone for less than a week. "I know." His hands frame her face again, forcing her to meet his intense gaze. "Which is why I'm only promising it if you're certain. If there's any doubt, any hesitation, leave now. I'll take you home. We'll slow this down, give you space to think clearly. But if you stay, if you choose this, there's no going back. Not for me." Elena searches his face, looking for manipulation or deception. She finds only raw honesty and vulnerability that this powerful man is allowing her to see. "I'm terrified," she admits. "But I'm also more certain about this than I've been about anything in years." That's all the permission Vittorio needs. His mouth finds hers again. And this time, there's no hesitation, no holding back. Elena surrenders to it, to him, to the inevitability of what they're becoming to each other. Later, much later, Elena lies in Vittorio's arms, the moonlight painting silver patterns across the sheets tangled around them. His fingers trace idle patterns on her shoulder as her head rests on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. "What happens now?" Elena asks quietly. "Do we tell people? Do I meet your associates? How does this work?" Vittorio's chest rumbles with quiet laughter. "Practical even now. That's one of the things I love about you." Elena's breath catches at his casual use of the word love, but she doesn't comment on it. Not yet. "We take it one day at a time," he continues. "You'll meet people gradually as it becomes necessary. Some of my associates won't understand what I see in you, will think you're a weakness." His arm tightens around her. "Let them think that. They'll learn otherwise. And my life, my apartment, my jobs? Your apartment's lease ends next month according to my—" He stops, apparently realizing how that sounds. "According to the background check I had done," he finishes. "You could move in here. As for your jobs, that's your choice. Keep them if you want. Quit if you want. I'll support whatever you decide." Elena props herself up on one elbow, studying his face in the moonlight. "You realize how crazy this sounds, how fast we're moving." He nods, unapologetic. "I've never been good at slow, Elena. When I know what I want, I pursue it with everything I have. Right now, what I want is you. In my home, in my life, In my bed. But his expression softens. I also want you happy. So if moving in is too fast, keep your apartment. If you want to maintain your independence, keep your jobs. I'm not trying to trap you or make you dependent on me. Elena wants to believe him, wants to trust that this powerful man who's used to controlling everything won't try to control her, but part of her knows it's inevitable. Men like Vittorio don't surrender control easily, don't accept boundaries gracefully. It will be a constant negotiation, a dance of give and take. I'll keep my apartment for now, Elena decides, but I'll stay here most nights if that's what you want. Vittorio's smile is satisfied. That's what I want, at least until you're ready for more. They fall silent, comfortable in each other's presence. Elena knows she should feel more conflicted about her choice, should be second-guessing the decision to entangle herself with a criminal. But lying here in his arms, feeling safer than she has in years, despite the danger he represents, she can't bring herself to regret it. Whatever comes next, whatever consequences follow from tonight, she's chosen this path with open eyes. The funeral is beautiful in its simplicity. Her grandmother is laid to rest in a small cemetery on the outskirts of Florence. Cypress trees standing sentinel. The Tuscan sun warm on Elena's face despite the autumn chill. Vittorio stands beside her throughout the service, his hand firmly clasping hers, his presence a solid anchor in her grief. The priest speaks of her grandmother's faith, her kindness, her devotion to family. A handful of people attend, mostly elderly friends from her grandmother's building, a few distant cousins. But Elena doesn't feel alone. Vittorio's driver Marco is there, standing respectfully at a distance Lucia, the driver who's become unexpectedly kind, and several other people Elena doesn't recognize, but who nod respectfully to Vittorio, clearly his associates paying their respects. After the burial, at the reception Vittorio arranged at a small restaurant near the cemetery, Elena mingles with her grandmother's friends, accepting condolences and sharing memories. She's acutely aware of Vittorio watching from across the room, nursing an espresso, his posture relaxed, but his eyes alert. He's cataloging everyone, she realizes, assessing threats, noting relationships, protecting her even here. The thought should bother her. Instead, it's oddly comforting. When the reception finally winds down, and the last guests depart with hugs and promises to stay in touch that Elena knows won't be kept, she finds herself alone with Vittorio in the restaurant's small garden. "You handled that beautifully," he says, pulling her into his arms. "She was proud of you. Your grandmother, I could see it in how her friends spoke about you." Elena buries her face in his chest, breathing in his scent, letting him hold her together. "Thank you for being here, for all of this. Always," he murmurs into her hair. "Whatever you need, Elena. Always." And in that moment, standing in a garden beside a restaurant after burying the last of her family, Elena realizes she's found something unexpected. Not just a lover or a protector, but a partner. Someone who sees all of her, the strength and the vulnerability, the courage and the fear, and wants her anyway. It's terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. As they drive back to the villa, Elena's hand clasped in Vittorio's, she thinks about her grandmother's final words in the hospital. When the man with dangerous eyes offers you the world, remember that accepting it means becoming part of his world. Elena has accepted it. She's become part of Vittorio's world, with all its darkness and danger. And somehow, impossibly, it feels like coming home.